All right, a lot to unpack from the action here tonight at Road to ADCC. A very interesting event. Six super fights featuring the ADCC super fight rule set. And I think let's go back down from the top to the bottom, right? Let's start off with the main event because, you know, champion versus champion, it doesn't get much bigger than that. Kaynan Duarte, I gotta say, I didn't quite expect it to play out like that, but that was a very quick finish.
Absolutely, and it shows, as we mentioned in the broadcast, those 5 months that Kaynan's put in of relentless no-gi work expressed himself in that submission win. Gordon, what did you make of Kaynan's performance?
So you know, it's like you said, he didn't really get to showcase, you know, an insane amount of jiu-jitsu. He had some nice feints, a nice takedown. You know, went to go past, and then once he backstepped into the legs, this is, you know, notoriously Mathias' weak spot. Here, once he backstepped into the legs and he was hip to hip, I was pretty confident that he was going to get the finish. I didn't think he was going to leg lace him and be able to submit it with that, but I thought that he was going to get at least close to a finish with an inverted.
Man, that is only the second time that Mathias has ever lost by submission in a no-gi match. Of course, you were the first to get a win over him in no-gi, and Kaynan now becoming the second. But, I mean, we've seen Mathias. He's dangerous. He's very hot and cold, though, right? And I think that maybe Kaynan caught him on a cold night tonight.
Yeah, I mean, plus too, you know, Mathias has said publicly that he, you know, during COVID he wasn't training and Marcel's was closed down, so you really don't know what his training regimen has been like since the pandemic started. I think Marcel's like just opened up, so I mean, how good was his camp? What was he doing? How was his preparation? You know, he came in not much lighter, but, you know, a good amount lighter. And, you know, Kaynan obviously has had a full camp and was ready to go tonight. I mean, Kaynan was on.
Makes a difference, absolutely. Let's move on down through the card because there's not much else we can really say about that match. It was pretty much a one and done. But, okay, the co-main event, however, there's a lot that we can talk about here. Nicky Ryan versus Dante Leon. Now, first of all, let's talk about the wrestling of Nicky Ryan. It's been talked about a lot. We got to see it better than ever tonight, right?
Absolutely, and we were talking about this in the break there. The fact that Nicky was so cleanly able to under Dante's hips was really magnificent. Gordon, is this what we're seeing in the gym every day with Nicky?
Yeah, it's a lot closer to what we're seeing in the gym every day.
So he's still not reached his final form?
No. Nicky in the gym would have submitted Dante. But you know, definitely saw a lot of it today. He's been talking about his wrestling, and he was able to showcase that today. You know, I think that I think it's unfortunate he hurt his knee because he was doing so well. He was building momentum the whole match, and then he kind of got shut down because he had that knee injury, you know, later in the match. Yeah,
so he mentioned there, we didn't see it at all. All of us were a little bit perplexed as to where the injury came, but he described it for us, and there was about 6 minutes left in the match, I want to say, at that point. And, you know, he ended up limping back across the match and seeing out the rest of the encounter exclusively playing guard, wasn't able to really attack with anything. Impressive in its own right, though, I think, to power through an injury of that nature and still get the win in a pretty one-sided match, let's be honest, right?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. You know, Nicky's feints, his hand fighting, his shots looked amazing. And you know, he passed him a few times, and Dante managed to recover. Dante's recoveries were amazing. The one time I mentioned he's either going to pass him or take his back, and he created back exposure, but Dante grambied out right into his legs. So it was a great back and forth battle. I think obviously Nicky got, you know, the winning exchanges going, but I thought it was a great back and forth match.
And I feel like Nicky's his rise through the ranks as well, it's something to be spoken about, right? Because, you know, he steadily worked his way up against progressively tougher opponents who are ranked higher than him, opponents in different weight classes, and all presenting different challenges. But Dante, I mean, Dante's Dante, a no-gi world champion, an ADCC veteran. To take out somebody like Dante, that does say a lot, doesn't it?
I was really pleased to see Nicky perform the way he did because we've seen the training footage, we've heard the rumors, and for him to put it together the way that he did tonight, we did see an evolution in his game. So really impressive showing, you know, and Dante has a lot to take home from this, a lot to work on. I feel like Dante probably is not thrilled with that performance. It's an area that he typically excels in, which is the wrestling and wrestle-ups, and he was beaten by his own game.
Beaten there, right?
Exactly. So really interesting dynamic in that match. I hope to see Nicky back soon, fully recovered and ready to improve even more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never good to see somebody suffer an injury in a match, so we wish Nicky Ryan a speedy recovery. All right, so moving on down, man. Some drama in this one, some heat, let's say. First of all, okay, the jiu-jitsu was flawless. The jiu-jitsu was incredible. An incredible technical exchange between Mikey Musumeci and Gio Martinez, the number one 135-pound ranked grappler, up against the number one 145-pound ranked grappler. And to see them go head-to-head was intriguing. Of course, Gio came out, you know, he made it physical, and then it got into this prolonged series of leg exchanges, attacks from Mikey, counter-attacks from Gio, and it was a shootout in every sense of the word.
Let's not forget that armbar that kicked things off as well.
Armbar was serious. I mean, Mikey ended up winning on points via this back control, a beautiful display of jiu-jitsu, specifically there in maintaining that back through Gio's counter. But okay, we got to address the elephant in the room here. Man, I have never seen Mikey that fired up in my life.
Gio definitely made things a little personal. Sorry, Gordon, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No matter if you agree or disagree with Mikey, just his passion, you got to get behind them. They're like, hell yeah, Mikey, go for it. So I was enjoying the whole thing. We came out and Mikey tried to shake Gio's hand. And Gio didn't shake his hand, and then they shook in the middle of the match, and they were talking in the middle of the match. We don't know really what they were saying. And then they were like debating after the match, of like talking to each other. Again, we don't know what they were saying.
You would have thought that the match is like kind of like that's where you quash it, right?
Yeah,
it's like okay,
the match is over,
okay,
no problem.
Talk some crap leading up to it and stuff, but leave it on the mat. But it seems that things are far from settled.
Yeah, I mean, he actually got more angry at the end of the match, I think. Like he was like more fired up to like at the end of the match than he was in the beginning.
Yeah, really interesting and a little, honestly upsetting. Mikey's just such a calm, chill, nice guy. It's tough to see him so upset, but really, really interesting to see him on the mats. The technique we saw from Mikey tonight is continuing to evolve. And, Gordon, you actually were chatting with Mikey a little bit after the match about some of the technical areas where maybe he thought he should have gotten to submission but wasn't able to. What were you guys talking about?
So he came over and he's like, "Man, what did I do wrong with the heel hooks and the armbar?" I was just talking. We were just going over mechanics and what he could have done better with his ashigarami and his hand position and the hand placement on the armbar to actually push it across the hip and finish.
Man, I love that dedication to learning. That straight off the mat after a 20-minute match like that, all fired up, all the personal stuff.
And he comes to discuss technique.
He immediately goes to the number one pound-for-pound grappler in the world and says, "Help out my heel hook." That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta respect that. I mean, there's no one I respect in the sport more than someone who's willing to actually learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Mikey has tested himself in many ways over the last 8 months or so, competing on Who's Number One. And, of course, now, for the first time under ADCC rules here at Road to ADCC, and the results, wow, I mean, they just keep coming. They just keep getting more and more impressive. Who knows what could be next? Maybe we'll have some news about that soon. Keep an eye on FloGrappling for that. Okay, Lucas Hulk Barboza didn't have to change his game plan too much for the late replacement William Tackett. Tackett came in, of course, on 7 days' notice, replacing the injured Craig Jones. And I feel like, if anything, even though technically they share some similarities, they're very different grapplers, but the game plan that Lucas had in mind for Craig Jones worked perfectly against William Tackett.
I mean, not many mistakes were made when you're able to rack up 34 unanswered points. But Gordon, you had some things to say about maybe Lucas' performance. What was on your mind there?
Yeah, I mean, so positionally, he looked great. He was very dominant. But, just for me, as someone who believes that our sport is about to control that leads to submission, like, could you imagine doing jiu-jitsu for 20 years and then just realizing that you just have no ability to actually hurt somebody? Like you can't perform a submission. Like if you score 34 points on someone in a 20-minute match, you should be able to get relatively close, at least to a submission, provided the guy's amazing at escapes. But like you should be able to finish someone.
Do you think that's a failure on Barboza's part, or do you think that's credit to Tackett's defense?
I think it's a failure on Barboza's part.
There we have it.
Technically, there's just no setups for submissions. The mechanics are all wrong. It's just from a technical standpoint, it's just Barboza's lack of ability to set up submission attempts.
Do you see Hulk doing well at ADCC? Assuming that he goes to Worlds in 2022, does his style maybe not philosophically or even with the submission in mind jive with you very well, but do you think what he did tonight would carry over successfully at the World Championships?
Yes, of course. I think that there's a big difference between being good at jiu-jitsu and being good at winning. I don't necessarily think that Hulk is very good at finishing people, but I think that he's very good at winning. I think that for whatever rule set he shows up to, he at least has somewhat of a game plan that he can follow. When he shows up to ADCC, like, he was one of my toughest matches at the last ADCC, because just tactically it's hard to get a hold of him. He's very explosive. He's very physical.
He's a great competitor,
and he's a great competitor. He knows how to win. And we had a razor close match until I eventually took his back right at the end of a 15-minute match. So I think, provided I wasn't in that division and he won that match, I think he would have won ADCC last year in his debut. So I think that he has a really good shot of winning a division that I'm not in, ADCC.
There you have it. Yeah. Okay. The only female match, this heavyweight bout between Anna Carolina Vieira versus Elizabeth Clay, for me was one of the most technically interesting matches, because there were so many questions as to what to expect from Anna Carolina Vieira, given that she doesn't quite have the same no-gi pedigree and hasn't had the same level of notoriety as Elizabeth Clay. But man, she had an answer for everything Clay threw at her, and to be honest, not many people do.
No, what a match. We really saw some heart from Anna Carolina surviving. That knee bar looked pretty tight. And then she was able to slowly pour the pressure on. She was always in the right position, amazing passing. And what I loved is that she was diving on the head, applying some pressure to try and force a pass. Really, I think, dominated the pacing for all 10 minutes for points are in effect. Gordon, what did you? I guess I don't know. Did you see that match or not? I forget.
I did see that match. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like I said, it was going to be a classic stylistic match of a bottom guard player looking to enter into the legs and a pressure passer. Anna did a really good job of not only just avoiding the leg entanglements, but simultaneously putting that passing pressure on her. And she got past her legs multiple times, went for a few strangles from a few front headlocks. And I think that she did a very good job of shutting down the initial leg entanglement and then getting to her prime passing positions.
Now, I'd like to draw some parallels, if I may, and between Elizabeth Clay and yourself, somebody who experienced a lot of success as a teenager, and primarily by finishing pretty much everybody who was in front of them, competing in all different rule sets and always having that same goal in mind. However, you yourself, you went through a period where you had to evolve, you had to adapt because of certain shortcomings in your game, notably the wrestling and the top position. I feel like Elizabeth's at a similar stage in her career.
Yeah, she's in a situation where I feel like I was at when I was competing against Leandro Lowe, where I was so focused on just submitting people that I kind of just ignored tactics to a certain degree. And no matter how good technically you get, no matter how good you are at submissions, there's always going to be a time where you're just not going to get a submission. And those are the matches that are going to define you as an athlete. Can you win a close tactical match provided you can't get to a submission? Like a match, for example, like me versus Patrick Gaudio at No-Gi Worlds. Like razor close, and I was able to score. I was down. I scored like the last 20 seconds. Like, those are the matches that are going to define athletes. Can you win under pressure when you feel like you can't get your game, you can't get your game going, you can't get to a submission? Can you win those little tactical battles when you feel like the technical battles aren't going to take you through to a win? Yeah,
and if your only goal is to finish by submission, of course, then sometimes it's going to come up short. So I think definitely a learning experience for Elizabeth Clay, and by no means a bad performance. That was a very impressive performance.
It was amazing. She was attacking the whole time. She was trying her best, but Anna just did such a good job of just negating the initial leg entanglements and countering when she did enter her legs and standing up and peeling feet. So really good job by both.
So, of course, this was our first match of the evening, and you were unable to catch this one. Man, you're going to have to watch the replay because this was wild.
I know. I'm so mad I missed it. Someone messaged me like, oh, man, Roberto finished him trapping an arm with the back. And I was like, oh, man.
But Rotolo came out guns blazing. He took down Roberto. He came close to passing the guard. He was going after all manner of attacks, and it was a typical encounter. Anytime either of the Rotolo brothers get on the mat, I mean, it's must-see TV, right? These guys, they are just phenomenal competitors and entertainers in the same way. But Roberto, I think that the size advantage, yeah, definitely a factor. But for me, what impressed me most was his composure under that initial onslaught, right, Chase?
Absolutely. His arm was fully extended in the beginning of that match. He was able to take that hit, keep going. And honestly, Roberto is so good at winning in the scramble, right? And he's always hunting for the back. Doesn't really matter what position or quasi-position they're in. He's always diving underneath the hips, getting towards the back. And that's what we saw in the lead up to that finish. both guys' futures are so bright. You know, they're definitely going to be superstars in our sport for some time to come. And I could watch that match 100 times.
Yeah,
I mean, let's just keep
really
running it back.
Good.
So.
Yeah. You'll be able to catch the replay on FloGrappling if you missed it, of course. But I think that pretty much wraps up everything from this evening. Very impressive evening of jiu-jitsu here at the Road to ADCC. And time now to award the submission of the night. That honor goes to Kaynan Duarte for his 2 minutes and 3 seconds leg lock win against Mathias. Our submission of the night award there. And man, I gotta say, Gordon, you called it that leg lace, nice little technical breakdown, but just talk us through it one more time here.
So you see here, there's a slight bend in Mathias' top leg, his right leg, because when his legs got trapped, he tried to pull his legs out, which actually facilitates more pressure throughout the legs. Kind of had like a little bit of a weird angle here, maybe some knee bar pressure, but whenever you feel that, you need to raise your hips and you need to push the top leg further into the lock, not try to pull it out, which puts more pressure on. So he just made a mistake of keeping his hips low and trying to pull his leg out. He needed hips high with the leg coming in and booting the leg to take pressure off.
And you know, you called it when you were watching the match, and of course you heard Kaynan's words after there as well about how he admits that, hey, he's been finished by heel hook in the past. He knew it was a weakness in his game, and he spent some time developing his leg attacks. You can see the difference.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's going out, and even in the last couple events, like I know he did the big subversive event where he's entering into people's legs. So, you know, he was really, you know, he's really dedicated himself to at least learning to be competent on the legs. I don't know if it's something that he wants to make. I don't know if he wants to become a leg locker, but I know that he wants to at least become competent so he doesn't go out and get finished anymore.
You're going to need it at the highest level, that's for sure. Well, it's been pretty cool to break down some of the action here once again with you, Gordon. We love having you in the commentary box. And
it's great to be here.
We've got tons more events coming up on FloGrappling that hopefully we can get you back for and call some more of the action.
I'll be here.
Let's just roll. Let's just throw this up so you can see some of the action that's coming up on FloGrappling between now and the end of the year. We've got, well, upcoming events such as BJJ Bet. This is going to be Nicholas Marigali versus Felipe Pena in a gi match in a battle for what is the #1 spot in the pound-for-pound rankings. Very significant match between two incredible competitors, plus an 8-man middleweight no-gi tournament featuring Leandro Lo's first no-gi match since 2017 and the black belt debut of Mika Galvao. I am super excited for that one. August 7th, we have the EBI 16-man featherweight tournament, Emerald City Invitational. Very excited for that one. Many top-ranked grapplers from the lightweight divisions will be competing there. And then, one of the biggest gi tournaments of the year, September 1st through 5th, the IBJJF Pan Championships going down in Florida. And of course, speaking of big tournaments, well, possibly the biggest no-gi event of the year, the Who's #1 Championships, our 2-day tournament. 5 divisions, 3 for the men, 2 female divisions, featuring 5 different weight classes, and an incredible total prize fund of $250,000 on the line. All that plus much more between now and the end of the year. Put your FloGrappling membership to work and watch all of that good jiu-jitsu. There's so much on offer. But that's not all, because on FloGrappling we also have, well, exclusive films, documentaries, studio shows, including the Grappling Bulletin and the Who's #1 podcast. Training and technique videos, go inside the gym and see people teaching their favorite techniques or just getting down and rolling on the mat. Rankings updated for both gi and no gi. But yeah, we got more episodes of the Danaher Death Squad series in Puerto Rico as well, Gordon. So plenty to look forward to there. But how did you like their episode that came out not too long ago?
I'm excited. Those are great. I mean, I love it. I think fans like it. It gives them a little like behind the scenes action and, you know, what our daily life is like, what it's like to be an athlete, what it's like to live in Puerto Rico.
How crazy it is to actually be part of that squad.
Of course, exactly.
And all that and much more coming before the end of the year. But yeah, put your membership to work. There really is so much good stuff to watch. Well, that's pretty much it, guys. Honestly, once again, it's been really, really cool to call the action for a somewhat different event, a unique opportunity. The first ever Super Fight event featuring ADCC Super Fight rules, and hopefully not the last.
Yes, well, I agree. I like these rules.
We will see you guys on the next one. It's myself, Hywel, Chase Smith, and Gordon Ryan. See you again soon.